There you
No.
go.
It has been hard to avoid the number of true crime TV shows or podcasts that have encouraged us to play along and help solve mysteries.
But when the armchair detective leaves the living room and steps into the real world, could they risk doing more harm than good?
Well, Professor David Wilson certainly thinks so, and he's now to explain why. And the thing is, you know, we're all guilty of this. We all go, have you seen this? Have you seen this drama? Have you listened to this podcast? When does it cross over and start becoming an issue?
OK, well, the obsession bit first. It's not just this nation that's obsessed with true crime. These are universal obsessions. So globally, people are obsessed with true crime. A few facts and figures, Halls. There are something like 3,000 true crime podcasts you can choose from. The Daddy, the mummy of them all, serial has been downloaded 300 million times. Wow. There are 3 TV channels in Britain alone dedicated to true crime, 5 million viewers on average per week. There's a true crime convention that's happening in Glasgow this week. And of course, therefore, that kind of breadth of what we mean by true crime masks a variety of product. And sometimes those true crimes follow rules and guidance, and other times because they don't follow those rules and guidance, because, of course, anybody now can set themselves up as an armchair detective, get on YouTube, go on Instagram, go on TikTok, and say that they know the answer to the case that the police are investigating.
It is causing real problems now. We've seen it over the last year or two. So tell us what the problems are, David.
Well, you know, last week we had on this sofa a woman called Michelle Hadaway, whose daughter Karen Hadaway was murdered when she was 9 years old. We went through a great deal of duty of care to Michelle in terms of even showing her footage of the original police investigation, trying to find at that stage her daughter. So we have a duty of care to people who've been affected by these crimes. Plus, legally, as you both know, I do documentary for Channel 4 and for the BBC, and legally, I have to follow a number of rules in relation to what I can say and to those things which I can't say, even if I believe them to be true. And that's the beginning of the real problem, isn't it? Because of this democratization of social media, anybody can set themselves up as an armchair detective.
So that becomes particularly a problem when there is a case that's active.
Absolutely. And we can think about it even in the early days, back to 2007, when Madeleine McCann goes missing. And, you know, the kinds of conspiracy theories that emerged about the Jerry and Kate McCann, who were described as child traffickers by some people. Then we go on to the Christopher Jeffries case, which was Joanna Yates's, who was murdered in 2010, her landlord, and the kinds of things that were said about him. And, of course, most recently, and again, you and I have both discussed this before, we had the Nicola Bulley case, which was an absolute live investigation in a public space, and TikTok armchair detectives turned up in that space and started reporting live, as it were, from an active crime scene.
Do you know what I don't understand is, and look, anyone who's studied journalism, you and I've done, we've had to read McNay's, which is the law book inside. Still is, and you have to abide by it when you're a journalist. But once a case is active, once someone has been charged, there's only certain things you can report on. Usually in a newspaper and radio and TV, yet it seems on social media, you can do what you want. It's the Wild West out there. Why are they living by a different rule?
Because at the end, if at the end of the day, if I said something, if either of you said something that actually was libelous, we would be sued. But if you're somebody who has got a TikTok profile or an Instagram profile, there's no point in actually suing you. You can ask them to remove the content that they've put up. But that feeds into this bigger problem that's now emerging. Because our criminal justice system is disappointing at the moment, you know, only 3% of theft, only 5% of rape ever gets solved. People have lost confidence in our criminal justice system, and so they're doing it for themselves. And that also feeds into conspiracy theory.
And that feeds into most recently, as we saw with Lucy Letby. And you've been contacted by people that saying that they think that this has been a cover-up of some sorts.
Yeah, I mean, the people who have contacted me want to disagree with the verdict. They see Lucy Letby as innocent, and therefore they will then suggest to me on email, they'll suggest to me things that they felt proved her innocence as opposed to her guilt. As I often point out, the trial went on for 10 months. I didn't sit through the evidence, neither did they. But if Lucy Letby's barrister wanted to take up those issues, he would be perfectly entitled to do so either at the time or when she appeals. I also point out that the kind of conspiracy theories that they've got, that certain medical experts, expert witnesses weren't telling the truth, there was a cover-up on behalf of institutions, all of those things feed into. You were talking earlier to Tom, about global warming and the belief that global warming doesn't exist. It's a conspiracy on behalf of the Democrats in the United States. There is this distrust at the moment about official sources of authority, and true crime suffers a great deal from that at the moment.
Just to finish up, because we know people love watching it and we don't want to make them feel bad about watching it, what we're saying is there is a responsible way to be involved in it. There's actually a True Crime Producers Association, and they're saying it's OK to do this stuff, just do it the right way. So just calm everyone on that front, David.
I love true crime. I don't just think an interest in true crime is normal. I think it's absolutely necessary, because if we actually understand the circumstances in which we might fall victim to crime, we can do something to avoid those circumstances. And if we understand that certain groups of people will be victimized as a consequence of true crime documentary, we can do something structurally to change their vulnerability. By all means, consume this, but remember, these are real cases involving real people. And speculation sometimes does a great deal of damage.
Wise words. Thanks, David. Wise words. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.